Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Pundits podcast, which is a bit of a, you could say, off the ropes episode today. Anyways, my name is Nathan, and I am joined once again by my faithful co-host, Evan.
Hello, how's it going again?
I'm tired, mate. It's late. The Anthony Joshua Kubrat Pulev fight has just wrapped up. And we're both very tired.
Yeah.
And so we apologise if this episode is a bit short, but we wanted to record it.
Yeah, just get a quick one out about
promptly.
the fight. Yeah.
Just before we begin, make sure you go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of that. One of our Instagram posts banged this week, which was kind of mad. Yeah, it's a bit crazy. The actual podcast episode didn't do that great, but the
stinker, mate, stinker.
Yeah, but the Instagram post banged, so that's good. Anyway, do you want to tell us a bit about sort of the build-up and whatnot, and where we are in the state of heavyweight boxing at the moment?
Well, we obviously had Anthony Joshua coming in holding 4 of the belts, and it was obviously we had Fury knocking out Wilder in the end of last year.
Unbelievable fight.
Brilliant fight. And so obviously AJ came in with his mandatory challenge. Obviously everyone wants to see AJ versus Fury, which we'll get on to later. But so he came in with his mandatory challenge, which was against Kubrat Pulev of Bulgaria instead of Alexander Usyk, which a lot of people assumed it would be, but I think that's a different belt. He's got a mandatory against Usyk now. I
think that'll be a good fight as well.
Yeah, especially after Usyk handled Chisora, really.
Oh, yeah. He's a good boxer, Usyk.
Yeah, Usyk's
mind
a
you,
good boxer.
Pulev's a good... I think Pulev's a good boxer as well, mine.
Yeah, I think Usyk needs one more fight. I think either Dillian White or Pulev could step in there. Maybe even
Povetkin. I was going to say Povetkin.
Povetkin's got, obviously... Povetkin's got Dillian White's belt, hasn't he? So he's sitting there on a belt. And so who knows? Povetkin's still got to have a mandatory. I don't know. They'll probably figure out some Russian fighter that they can drag out from the undercard and then promote him so he can get his mandatory done. But yeah, so the heavyweight boxing hasn't been in this good of a state since late 90s, early 2000s.
There's a lot of exciting fights, lots of good fighters, lots of belts changing hands.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of belts in boxing anyway nowadays. But
too many belts.
Yeah, there's too many belts.
We need to streamline.
Yeah, I like someone made the joke that if you buy a front row ticket, you get a world title basically, because it is a bit ridiculous. Some of the how many belts there are, but that's just the way it goes, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so it was obviously an interesting matchup. You had Pulev coming in at 17 stone 1, and then AJ came in at 17 stone 2.
Both looked in phenomenal shape.
Obviously, AJ always looks in.
AJ always. I'm quite glad he slimmed down a bit, because he used to fight a couple of stone heavier, didn't he?
Yeah, he used to fight quite big, quite bulkier, towards 18 stone. And
I think Pulev looked in ridiculous shape.
Considering he's 39 years old.
Yeah, mate, he looked in great shape, and I think you couldn't really ask for more from two fighters to go in and go at it. They're both in good shape, both fit, both healthy. Yeah. And it was actually, I enjoyed the fight. I thought it was a good fight.
It was a great fight, mate. There was a lot more skill from one side, from AJ.
Let's go from the beginning. Obviously, first round, very measured, not many punches thrown.
It was a feel-out round.
And I'm glad that was the case, though. I think AJ's matured a lot as a boxer, whereas before he would have just been coming straight out the gate, looking to bury people in the first 3 rounds.
Exactly.
I think we saw a very different tactical AJ today. I think Pulev, he's got those awkward sort of jerky movements that can be a bit annoying for fighters to sort of predict what's going to happen. But apart from a few point scoring punches, there wasn't really anything in the first round at all.
No, that was a warm up round. That was just get your feet under you. That was
after a long time out of the boxing ring.
Yeah, exactly. And there's only 1,000 fans in the Wembley Arena, but still, play up to the crowd a little bit. They started booing after a minute because
no punches were being thrown.
There were 2 jabs thrown in the first minute. It wasn't the most exciting first round, but then AJ started to sit behind that jab, which we noticed was just hitting clean and snapping Pulev's head back.
Very crispy jab.
Very nice to see AJ controlling the distance against a shorter fighter,
which he did very well against Andy Ruiz as well. In part 2, not so much in part 1.
No, exactly, and that was.
I think he learned from his mistake. I think you mentioned it while we were watching the fight. After he's been dropped, he's not so afraid to get punched now, and his chin has improved a lot.
Yeah, and he's also not afraid. He's not afraid to go defensive now because he knows. He's also he's not afraid to take punches because he knows he can, even though he's been dropped in the Klitschko fight and now obviously got dropped in the Ruiz fight. He hasn't been.
I think the Klitschko fight, the main one of the main contributing factors to why he got dropped, because he was so gassed, mate. He was completely out of puff.
Yeah, and so obviously it wasn't the cleanest first 2 rounds, for him.
No.
But the jab was very nice.
Yeah, hitting
that left jab really controlled things and dictated the way the rest of the fight went.
And that's the thing, when you're a bigger bloke as he is, coming up against a shorter, very powerful opponent, that's how you win. Because at the end of the day, you walk onto a few wrong punches from a shorter, very powerful opponent, the fight's over.
Well, exactly. I think he learned that from the Andy Ruiz fight, that there's no point trying to go in close, which he used to do against smaller fighters, because he's been rocked a couple times against people that are either smaller or stronger than him.
Yeah,
amazingly, some people might be stronger than him, but he's not overextending. He's sticking behind that jab, and he's not being afraid to box smart.
He's boxing out of a good sort of base structure. Do you know what I mean? He's got the jab. He knows he can control the distance, and then like we saw today, when the opportunity presents itself, or he feels comfortable to let his hands go a bit, he can, and we saw how devastating that can be. And third round, Pulev got dropped. I thought the fight was done in that round.
Well, the second round wasn't much, was it? There was that one combination of like 6 punches where he, I think, landed about 2. He threw about 5 hooks and landed none of them, most of them on the glove. Maybe one, maybe the uppercut at the end got through. But
uppercut worked really well for AJ tonight.
So you'd probably be heading into round 2 with either a 10-10 and then a 10-9 to AJ. Round 1 you couldn't score that really. It was 10-10. That was a draw. And then, you're probably looking at 10-9 to AJ in the second round. And then the third round's where it really started kicking off.
Yeah, well, that's what... I think Peter Fury made a good point in that, but this was after the fight. He said, I'd like to see AJ let his hands go a bit more from behind the jab, which is fair enough, because you saw what happened when he did do it.
Oh, yeah.
But I quite liked how he boxed very tactically. And I think, like, for instance, in the third round, he dropped Pulev big time. Pulev was rocked. I thought the fight was done. Yeah. But then in the fourth round, he didn't come out and go straight in to try and end the fight there and then. And I'm glad that he didn't, because I think it was good that he played the tactical game and said, I'm winning this fight. I don't need to end it right here and now. I got to pick my moment.
And there was also a small bit of fatigue. There was there was a noticeable fatigue from
he was definitely a bit tired.
He chased it for basically 2 minutes of that round. He was chasing the knockout because he caught Pulev with a very nice right hand, and then
beautiful right hand.
Then he was just laying it on him. Pulev then turns his back, gets standing 8 count into the corner, and then they carry on boxing for a bit, and then the shot that was working the best for AJ was his uppercut, and you could see he was really trying to work on
devastating.
it. I don't know if that would look like a practice thing, like when you do training ground things, but he was just literally teeing off with that right uppercut a lot tonight, and it was impressive to see. But Pulev did a good job of defending it after the first couple, to just keep his head, keep his chin close to his neck,
I think,
and his chest, and plant it.
Maybe like round 6 going into round 7. I think Pulev was a bit rocked, and you could see it on his face. He was definitely a bit more wary after AJ sort of started to open up a bit, let his hands go, throw a few more, sort of power punches.
Yeah.
And I gotta hand it to Pulev. Great heart, dug deep.
Fair play.
Great chin. I don't know how he took so many punches like that.
And that was one of the more.
He landed a few good shots as well. Got to hand it to him. He had a few solid punches through the fight. There
were some bright spots through the fight. I think Pulev was more taken aback by obviously the distance, and it was very hard for him to get. Obviously, he relied heavily on. They both were very. You could see that AJ was a bit irked by the build up with what Pulev was saying and everything, and getting in his. He clearly got in his head because AJ and Pulev were both resorting to dirty boxing, which I thought they were both going to get a point taken off at one point.
I think the fight was ref quite well.
Apart from maybe, like I said, there should have been a point taken off both fighters.
They should have, but I mean, they were both as bad as each other, really, weren't they?
So you got to may as well just let him go. There's no point. It wasn't going the distance anyway. So, and then so AJ just stuck with his jab for the next couple rounds. Pulev had a couple bright spots, a couple 1-2s, a couple nice straight rights, but not much connected.
He didn't throw much. Though,
Nothing.
Pulev, did he? Like off, he didn't take the initiative. AJ was always the one on the front foot,
and that was due to the jab. Because he kept him back when Pulev was planning to throw. He was obviously always already on the back foot. So
I know you were very impressed by AJ's defensive boxing.
A head movement was a massive improvement tonight, and you noticed that.
Yeah, he really sort of, and he was very much more, active in the ring. Like instead of just taking punches on the gloves, he was moving out the way. He was slipping punches, and I think that was good to see because that's a sort of a new area for AJ's game that I think will put him in good stead, especially when the inevitable Tyson Fury fight happens against an opponent who's as dynamic as Tyson Fury is. You can't just stand there and be a robot, like what he said about Vladimir Klitschko. He's a robot. Yeah,
you knew what Vladimir Klitschko was going to do. He was just very boring, very methodical, but very boring fighter. Yeah, he had knockouts, but he wasn't a good. Let's be honest, he wasn't the best heavyweight to watch. He was clinical, and that was the era of boxing outside of like Pacquiao's and the occasional Mayweather, the Hatton, there were fighters that were exciting, but in general that was the era of technical boxing. In that middle to late 2000s was technical boxing. It's sort of come back to the forefront, a bit more power now. Everyone wants to seek that flashy knockout, but fair play to AJ. I was really impressed. Like I said, the jab and the head. We know he's got the power. The knockout didn't impress me that much. The shot was lovely. The quick left right that he threw to put him down eventually. Before that, he put him down with a series of uppercuts, which would, I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be hit by that shot.
No, absolutely. They were brutal, those uppercuts.
Don't care how hard you are, how Bulgarian you are. I don't want to be hit by that. Like, come on.
I think, the thing that impressed me most about AJ today was the tactics for me.
Yeah.
Because whereas before, especially, for instance, in the third round, when he had Pulev rocked, Pulev was pretty much done then. Yeah. And instead of coming out in the fourth round and just going all out, gassing himself out, which he has done in multiple fights before, he took the initiative to say, I'm ahead in this fight. I'm going to probably win this fight regardless of where we go from here, unless I get hit with a decent punch. And so he said, let's just take it slow. Let's not gas out because, this guy's obviously got a good chin because he got up from the last set. So let's play this tactically, have a bit of a round to recover. And then he did have a few quiet rounds in the middle where he wasn't as proactive in sort of going for the knockout, if you like. Yeah. And you just played it tactically. I think that's a very mature side of AJ's game.
I do also think that's a bit of the Rob McCracken influence, and I think he's gone into that corner end round 3. You can see that he's blowing. He came out. You can see he was blowing a little bit, not as much as in the past before he'd have been dropped from that position. But he came out round 4 and he was very tactical, just stuck behind the jab and was like, like you said, he knew he was ahead, so he was like, I'm just gonna, I don't need to search. Before he'd have searched for it and he'd have been caught, like we've seen in the Dillian White fight, in the Klitschko fight, in the Andy Ruiz fight. There's been a lot of fights where you get a knockdown, or even in the Povetkin fight.
Yeah, because nobody's gonna say that. AJ is he's very technically good, in terms of his punching technique and his defensive technique, and now he's got this extra added bit that we've seen today of a bit more dynamic in terms of his defensive boxing and his head movement and whatnot. Those things he doesn't need to work on those. He doesn't need to work on his technique. He doesn't need to work on his power.
No,
I think the tactics was a big area. Everyone would have said it's good for him to improve there, and he's shown that he has. He definitely was an improved boxer coming into this fight from, in my opinion, what we've seen before.
Well, because obviously fighting the journeyman is easy. He just goes in there, he uses his big power and his better technique and just goes in and rocks them. And then you notice when he started fighting real fighters, he was getting hit a lot more, he was getting dropped.
Yeah, because let's be honest, he has shown that he can beat good fighters. In my opinion, Dillian White, he's a good fighter. Yeah. Same with Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker is a very good heavyweight, and he's proved tonight with Pulev. Pulev is also a great boxer. Yeah. I think Usyk would be a good test for AJ, and obviously the Tyson Fury fight, which it looks like it'll happen next year. But how many times have we said this before?
Let's get into that then. So obviously 9th round knockout in the end. I think it was a full knockout, not technical, but it might have been technical. Who knows? They'll categorize it how they do it. But 9th round, he stopped him, and I think who do you think should fight who next in the heavyweight division, because there's a lot of talent. It's a very, for once, saturated with actually good fighters.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the fight everyone wants to see, obviously, is the Joshua Fury fight.
Of course.
But obviously there's the mandatories and things like that, which people have to get out of the way. I think the only other fight, I mean, Joshua Usyk would be a good fight, but it's not going to be anything like the Joshua Fury fight that everyone wants to see. But I guess when you got that much money on the line and stuff like that, you've really got to make sure that you're doing things by the book.
Yeah.
And everyone is agreed on the terms of how you're going to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I think honestly, a lot of the top heavyweights, I mean, the only other fights you could really make happen is Joshua Usyk. And I don't even know who Fury would fight.
Fury's going to fight Wilder next. They're doing that third.
Wilder 3, do you reckon?
Yeah, they're doing that 3.
I don't know. Do you reckon that'll actually happen though?
Yeah, I think it's got to.
Has it been confirmed?
Well, I also think because that's actually the first fight that Wilder's lost, he's still entitled to an automatic rematch. Yeah. I know it's not automatic now because of COVID.
I guess some people might say, I'd quite like to see Tyson Fury fight some of the other good heavyweights in the division, maybe like Joseph Parkers and people like that.
Yeah, but I think for the belt, it's either going to be Usyk or Povetkin, or it's going to be Wilder again. But I think they agreed to it in the contract.
Again, Povetkin's a good boxer as well.
Yeah, and I think let's be honest, the summer 2021 is when we want to see.
But let's be honest, I think what a lot of people say is we've had enough of this now. We've had. Joshua and Fury have been the best heavyweights in the division for the past couple. Well, since Fury came back, and since Joshua won the belt back. We'll say we won't count the Andy Ruiz loss, but those two have been the two big heavyweights that everyone wants to see fight each other, and it's been years now. And I think people are just getting a bit impatient.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we had Tyson Fury went through what he went through.
Yeah,
he had to come back, and then he had to fight that side of the heavyweights. He said all the time he wanted to knock out Deontay Wilder. Obviously, he's always said that he can beat AJ, and I do believe he would beat AJ.
I agree. I like them both. I'm not one of these people that's so polarized and they go, I think I like them both. I think they both have merits in their boxing game, but to me, Tyson Fury is just such a complete heavyweight. And he's a bit awkward, and some people are like, he hasn't got the best technique, boxing technique if you like, but when you look at Tyson Fury as a fighter, he will go into a ring and do what he says he's going to do, and he will dominate other fighters. Yeah,
he's basically said he promised everything he was going to do, and apart from beat Wilder the first time, which
well, that's the thing. Tyson Fury can go out there and bounce around the ring, doing fancy defensive boxing movements and battering his opponents to pieces and not gas out. Yeah, and he will still be fresh after 12 rounds.
Team Fury have the game plan to fight every boxer. They've clearly studied. They study so well that they know every fighter, how they're going to beat every single one. There's not going to be a surprise in there from AJ that they're not ready for. There's not going to be a shot that AJ throws that they're not going to, a combination. They're going to be ready. And I just think in the end, I think as much as I like AJ, and I think he's come on leaps and bounds as a boxer from where he was from the Dillian White fight to now, he's an incredibly much better boxer. He's the second best technical boxer in the division probably behind Tyson Fury, because Tyson Fury's technique and his skill is actually incredible. And I think,
but what can you ask for more from a heavyweight than he can fight orthodox, he can fight southpaw, he moves like a bloody lightweight,
moves moves like a middleweight and then punches like a heavyweight,
and he punches hard. People think that they always sort of pre the Wilder fight, I think everyone
Wilder said he had pillow fists.
Well, I think a lot of people looked at Tyson Fury as a boxer who tended to score points with punches rather than go for knockouts, and I think he just proved everyone so wrong against Deontay Wilder. We're like, what more really can you ask for out of a heavyweight? He can go 12 rounds and not get tired. He's got that dynamic, bouncy defensive movement around the ring. Like you said, he can punch knockout punches. Yeah. What more can you want? He is the most complete heavyweight in the division.
I think that's the fight that will happen. I think the fights are going to be, let's be honest, it's going to be Usyk, Joshua, and then you're probably looking at Wilder, Fury 3 probably.
Yeah, and then I think...
And then it's got to happen. If it doesn't happen, one side is running scared, and we know which side's probably running scared.
I think if it doesn't happen, I think it'll
be the biggest disappointment ever.
It'll be a disappointment. I think, I don't know.
It'll be comparable to when Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather didn't fight till they were old men if they don't fight.
Yeah.
As in, that fight was disappointing because they were so late in their careers. And obviously Manny Pacquiao allegedly had a torn rotator cuff. So how the hell he managed to
because the
box?
thing is, I would still like to see the other fights happen just after the Joshua Fury fight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I want all the belts in one place.
I don't want one person going into a fight with a loss.
Because let's put it this way, like Joshua was great. Wilder, Fury 3, I'm not really fussed about it because I think we've proven already who the better boxers out of those two.
And we know,
but like Povetkin, I want to see Povetkin and Fury fight each other. I want to see those fights happen.
No, God, Fury would dominate.
Yeah,
Povetkin.
but that's the thing. I would like to. I think they would, because the thing is, this is like they're all decent boxers. These like middle to upper tier heavyweights.
Yeah,
they are actually all pretty good boxers, and I think those fights would still be good. I just want to have this conclusion settled now before someone retires or somebody has, picks up an injury and says, I want to see it happen when both fighters are at their best. Because we said this, it's not a bad problem to have all the heavyweight belts in the UK.
But it's a problem for the fans because they don't know who to cheer for. I mean, it depends how you feel. I'll just cheer for the sport of boxing, to be honest.
Well, that's why I said cheer for British boxing, because I like them both.
Yeah,
and I want to see them both do well in their careers. I mean, they've both gone to great heights already in their careers, so I just want to see who wins that fight because it'll be a good fight.
For once, British heavyweights are in a better position than having all the belts in either America or Germany.
Well, there was the era of American heavyweights dominating,
where they completely dominated everything.
Yeah, and then we had the Lennox-ish bright streak, and then you had the European boxers dominating, and now it's the British heavyweights that are the ones to beat now.
But heavyweight boxing fell off in that after the Americans, and then after Lennox, it really fell off because Vladimir was the Klitschko brothers were too dominant in the.
Well, yeah, like you said, they might not be the most exciting boxers to watch, but at the end of the day, this is going to sound really stupid, but Chris Eubank, when he was on the telly, said, boxing is about scoring points against your opponent.
Yeah,
that is what the aim of the sport of boxing is to score points.
Yeah,
and that's what they did. They scored points more than anything else.
Yeah, and that's they box very cleverly when they used to fight, but again, obviously, it's not smart. It was smart. It wasn't exciting, but they got the job done, and they were world champions for
a long
God
time.
knows how long.
You can't take that away from them, I guess.
No, and this is the height of it when the biggest challenges in the division were David Hay and Shannon the Cannon Briggs. That's not
and
a quality.
Nikolai Valuev.
Exactly, that Valuev. There wasn't the heavyweight talent we've got now.
No, and
Fury was a fledgling career. Wilder wasn't heard of, even though he's in his late 30s now.
Mostly fighting journeyman on his way up to the top.
Exactly, and it wasn't until AJ exploded at the London Olympics where it kind of we started seeing all these other boxers. That's when.
But even in other weight divisions coming up now, we have some decent talent. Yeah. In terms of Welsh, but going back to that Welsh theme, you got the young light heavyweight Cody Davis as well. Yeah. He's got a fledgling career coming on. So
yeah, there's good boxing. The cruiserweights coming up to heavyweights is a bit weird, but then again, the cruiserweights are the size of heavyweights. Yeah, it's just hard when the top heavyweights are 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah, but you've got some cruiserweights out of that.
Yeah, exactly. They're just very thin, but I think it's boxing's in a great place right now. You've got mega stars obviously I know Vasil lost his belts to Lopez, but Lomachenko will be back. You've got Canelo fighting next weekend. You've got Triple G fighting on Friday. You've got all the top guys. I think Triple G Canelo 3 will happen, because that's the only realistic challenge.
Yeah, I know you're a big Canelo fan. I just think the guy again is such a complete boxer. I mean, he punches hard, and he is quick. I just love watching him box.
Yeah, listen, I think he's the most technically sound boxer. I think he's a better boxer all around than Triple G. Is Triple G a better puncher? Yes, in terms of power, but I think Canelo is the best technical boxer there is out there. Yeah, outside of maybe Vasily. And Lomachenko was incredible.
Mate, we will get into Canelo next weekend.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I'm very tired, and I would like to go to bed. And we wanted to keep this shorter, 25 minutes, just a bit longer than we wanted to go for. But hey,
that's how it goes.
Exactly. So if you did like the boxing segment, you want to see more boxing, drop us a comment, drop us a message on Instagram. It's always nice to hear what feedback people have and what they want to see next. So make sure, as I said in the beginning, in the description below, all our social medias are linked there. Make sure you hit subscribe. And we will see you. Actually, we will see you in several days when the F1 episode goes up. But
Yes.
yeah, so we're looking forward to that tomorrow as well. Brilliant. Cheers, Ev.
Cheers, mate.